Bozo, Gela Kasla, Checha Hethlich. My name is Joanne Restuel, and I am Anishinaabe Kwe. I live here in the Comox Valley, and I give great gratitude to the Puntledge, Aikson, and Comox people for living here in this beautiful land of their ancestors. This is about the history of the healing dance known as the Jingle Dance. It is said that at a time in our history as a people, a great sickness came upon the world. Many of our people were suffering, and the children were also becoming very, very ill. A man in one of our villages who was very worried about his daughter prayed to the Great Mystery, and it is said that he received a vision in a dream to help the people. In this vision, the man saw 4 women, each of whom wore a very distinctive dress. The dress was covered with shiny metal cones. The women moved their feet in a very precise way, gently touching the earth, moving in a circle, following the path of the sun. They did not cross their feet in any way or change their directions as they danced. The color of the dresses were red, yellow, green, and blue. When the man awoke, he told his wife of the dream and showed her how the women were dancing. The women knew that she must call upon the strong women of the village to help her to bring this dance to the people. The women came together and made the dresses exactly as they had seen in the dream. The women took on the responsibility of teaching the dance and the sacred way in which the dancers were to hold themselves. The village was called together, and the drummers began to sing. One by one, the women entered the center area of the village and began to dance. As they danced in a circle, the sound of the jingles were heard throughout the village. It is said that the man and his wife had brought their young daughter to see this gift of the jingle dance given to the people from the Creator. As the women danced, the young girl who was ill laid very still on her blanket. As they passed her, she rose up and stood, watching them. It is said she walked out into the circle and began to dance with the women. It is said that she received a healing on that day and recovered from her illness. This is how the Jingle Dance became known as the healing dance. To this day, the Jingle Dance is still present within the teachings of our people. The responsibility of maintaining the story and the teachings is being passed down through the generations. The Jingle Dance has spread throughout Turtle Island and can be seen at many, many gatherings and powwows. Although the expression of the dance has changed over time, the traditional form of the Jingle Dance is still held as the original form of this sacred dance and is now experiencing a resurgence amongst the people. At the time of this vision, the illness that had come upon the people was known as the Spanish flu epidemic of 1918. The gift of the healing ways of spiritual and cultural practice helped our people to come together and connect to the ancestral strength of their teachings at this very intense time in our history. All of humanity has been given these gifts in many forms. For us, as Anishinaabe, we are grateful to the Great Mystery, Kichimanitu, for the blessing of the healing dance, the Jingle Dance. In keeping with these teachings, a dedicated group of women are committing themselves to take part in a cultural revitalization project of the healing dance, the traditional Jingle Dance. Chimigwech, all my relations.
Anin, Buzu, Gelakasla, Anishinaabe Kwe, Abawasiji, Nugwaam Gatwala Nukwami. My name is Janine Lindsay, and I come from a rich heritage of Anishinaabe, Cree, Scottish, Irish, Mi'kmaq, and I am also adopted Zawadenoch and Wikinuch, and I am very, very happy to be here and sharing our story.
Tansi, Bozu, Ani. My traditional name is Angie Manadu Kwe. I am also Cree and Anishinaabe from Manitoba and from Saskatchewan.
We're here today to share our story and our journey and our cultural connections, and I thought it fitting that I start with sharing that I was about 13 years old when I first discovered that I had Indigenous ancestry. And it wasn't something that I had ever thought about or had considered, and partaking in cultural activities and learning my traditional songs and dances had never been something that had been taught to me or even brought to my attention. And it wasn't until I was 13 years old when my mom shared my family's history with me and shared our family's roots and our connections in what we call Canada, and that our family actually is rooted in the Cody Reserve in Saskatchewan and Tutnawazi being in Manitoba. And it was a beautiful, amazing journey. It was a lot of questions and a lot of who am I, where do I fit in, how do I fit in? And it ended up being that we had these beautiful mentors in the Comox Valley here, Joanne Ristoul and Suzanne Camp, who had taken us in and shared a part of their cultural teachings and their stories and what they could share with us in our teachings and our songs and our dances. But it wasn't until my mom felt comfortable enough to share with me that I was Indigenous that I actually got the chance to learn to do the beautiful things that we do with the healing dance, like the jingle dance. And it wasn't until that time in my life that I really started to understand who I was.
And I too grew up, I think it's kind of odd, but until I was 13, had no idea of my Aboriginal ancestry. So I grew up thinking that and always being told that I was Irish and French. And at 13 years old, my mother sat myself and my 5 siblings down to tell us that we were in fact Aboriginal, that we had Anishinaabe ancestry and Cree ancestry. And back in my time and in my day of growing up, finding that out was not something to be celebrated, unfortunately. It was just in a time where it wasn't okay to have that ancestry, so we continued to hide it. And so until I had my 2 beautiful daughters, and until I guess Janine was at the same age that I was, that really didn't come to the forefront. We were just who we were, and the Aboriginal part of us, that ancestry, was just tucked away. So when we did meet with Joanne Ristoul and Suzanne Camp and the dance group that we were a part of at the time, it was a learning experience for all of us, not just for my daughters, finding out who they were and a different part of their background, a different part of their history, but it was also an opening and a learning for myself, because I grew up ashamed of, like, once I found out, ashamed of having that ancestry, because that's the way it was for so long. So thankfully, when my daughters were learning at that age, I was learning as well. We were all taken into that beautiful circle, and we have learned here in the Comox Valley so much about ourselves, even though we aren't from this area isn't traditional to us. Thankfully, we've had the mentors and we've had the beautiful women in our lives that have brought that to us, that we've been able to learn and to just, yeah, be who we are, celebrate who we are.